I'm Brenton Simons, and welcome to another installment of the Antiquarto, a conversation series sponsored by American Ancestors and New England Historic Genealogical Society. I'm joined today by one of my colleagues from our publications team, Cécile Engeln, and we're here to talk about a special book that Cécile and I collaborated on. I'm going to show it to you, called The Family Album, A Visual History of the New England Historic Genealogical Society, 1845 to 2020. This was a fun book, Cécile, wasn't it?
It was. What a whirlwind.
Yeah, it really was. This book came about, it is a photo album because we were celebrating in 2020 our 175th anniversary. And of course, when we put this book together, none of us could have envisioned COVID and having to be at home for so long. And this was originally intended to be a gift to sponsors for our dinner for the former UK Prime Minister, Sir John Major, which we were able to finally have as an online program this year. But in the meantime, we made it available to everyone. And I thought it would be fun to go through, and I've got some photos marked, show some of my favorite photos, and talk a little bit about how we put this book together. And this was collaborative because I picked a lot of the photographs and Cécile wrote all the captions.
That's right.
But maybe before we get started with that, Cécile, I'd love it if you could tell our viewers about what you do on our publications team.
Sure. So I'm the assistant publishing director, and actually our new name is Books and Journals. And I work on many of our publications here at New England Historic Genealogical Society. I work on the Newbury Street Press imprint, helping people publish their family histories. So I work with the genealogists. They do the research, they do the writing, and then they release it to Books and Journals team for the production process. So we copy edit, we select images, we make the pages of the book and bind it. We take it through that process. So that's what I'm involved in. But I also work with Chris Child on the Mayflower Descendant Journal. And
that had a special issue this last year, 400th anniversary.
Yes, our special anniversary, Mayflower anniversary issue. That was lovely. And you wrote a beautiful introduction for that. What else do I do? Oh, I also, every piece of, every word that we send out into the world, I read and make sure that it is following, that it's spelled well and that we're sending out the right message.
Well, I'm very grateful for that because I am not a gifted typist and I've been known to make a typo or two, although I'm also an editor, so I'm good at finding typos, but we're really grateful for all that you do at the Society. So why don't we jump into this book? And by the way, at the end, we're going to share a little film which shows a lot of the images from this book that was broadcast in our event for Sir John Major. And then we'll tell you how to order it at americanancestors.org. But I thought and I'm just going to show these to the camera, so I hope you can see them. And again, if you can't see anything, please feel free to order the book. We hope everyone who's a member will have one. But I love this spread, and again, I hope you can see it well. This was part of our commemoration for the 400th anniversary of the Pilgrim Landing. These are pictures on pages 4 and 5. And one of the things I'm really grateful for, Cécile, is that we did a lot of our commemorating before 2020. We did a lot of it in 2018 and 2019, and now in 2021. So while we missed a lot of months there in 2020 itself. And these pictures show one of the really exciting events which we held at the Society in 2019, when we unveiled a small-scale replica of the Mayflower, and the British consul, the then British consul Harriet Cross, spoke, and this wonderful Wampanoag exhibit developed by Smoke Signals. And here's a picture of Paula Peters cutting the ribbon on the exhibit, which is a Pawtuxet woman and child, and then some of the dancing which occurred in the rotunda at our Society, which was great fun. And there's a picture of me with Governor Baker of Massachusetts. I was very honored to be appointed by the governor to be the vice chair of the commemorations.
I just want to point out that the Mayflower replica and the Patuxet mother and child were such a prominent figure outside on the street. It really drew people in. People had questions. They wanted to know what we were about, and it really served a good purpose of starting a conversation.
Well, that's true. If you aren't in the Boston area and didn't see it, we had, as Cécile said, we brought the Mayflower replica out to Newbury Street and the Pawtuxet woman and child out onto our front yard at the society. And it became, everyone was taking selfies with them and people loved it. And it was a wonderful way of engaging the community and visitors to Boston in thinking about the story of the 400th anniversary. I also like this spread, which shows on these pages, shows some of the speakers that we've had over the years. And there've been so many, we were spoiled for choice, as you know, when we put this together. Here is David McCullough. We gave David a literary family tree connecting him to many other famous authors. And a sentimental favorite here is Dame Angela Lansbury. Everyone remembers her from Murder, She Wrote and from all the wonderful films and Tony Award-winning performances on Broadway. And here's a picture, you appear here.
I do.
With, with two of your colleagues and the late Winston Groom. And
Yes,
he was a wonderful speaker. Yeah, wasn't he fun? He
Mhm.
was, for those who don't remember, the author of, what was it called?
Forrest Gump.
Yes, Forrest Gump. And I won't try to mimic the Tom Hanks, but it was a great moment. And what a gentleman. He was so nice. He sent me, every time he published a book, he sent me a copy of it. And we related him to some famous authors, as I recall.
Yes.
He was, yeah, do you remember?
Oh my gosh, this is so embarrassing as a former English major.
Well, Truman Capote was one.
Okay, and the author of To Kill a Mockingbird.
And also the actress Tallulah Bankhead.
That's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
and there were others, but that was a fun evening. And here is Douglas Brinkley, the commentator, and Ryan Woods presenting Stacy Schiff, who is a honorary trustee of our society and a Pulitzer Prize winning author, and Michael and Kitty Dukakis. And I remember Kitty Dukakis spoke from such a personal perspective, and it was such a wonderful talk. And we have many of these events where we honor famous Americans or people from other countries. Ken Burns was another, Doris Kearns Goodwin, the list goes on and on.
Yeah, our team really digs into their family history, and oftentimes there are wonderful surprises for them, which you love to reveal.
That's right. So Cécile and our publications team get a sneak peek at the genealogical discoveries, and then I get to reveal them from the podium, and it's great fun. And our guests are always amazed by the connections we put together, and we keep it under wraps.
Mm-hmm.
There's another spread I particularly like, which is our heritage spread, or heritage tour spread, I should say, which includes a wonderful picture of our visit to, speaking of the Mayflower 400th, our visit to Scrooby Manor with Robert Charles Anderson, the great migration author, in 2018, and Sue Allen, one of our authors from England, was there to show us Scrooby Manor, and it was such a great visit. And then there's also a picture of Kurt DiCamillo, who leads many of our heritage tours, and this one was to our Palladian Pathways tour, also in 2018, and one of the Italian aristocrats we visited with there, who showed us his villa. And those are just examples of the kind of tours that we offer, which are small group tours for the discerning traveler, and we tend to visit private homes and private collections, and so that's something else. The jumping ahead, by the way, this book works backwards. We wanted to show the present day and then ease you back to 1845. And the reason we did that is because there have been two published histories on the history of the society. One published in 1995 for a sesquicentennial by John Schutz, and another one published in 1945 at the time of our centennial. And they have a lot of images of the society back at its founding, but oddly, there weren't a lot of photographs for the 60s, 70s, 50s, sort of the mid 20th century had not been treated very well in, at least visually. So that was a fun thing to do. This is a spread deeper in the book of our front garden on Newbury Street. And you'll see on one side the ribbon cutting, which Mayor Menino, our late mayor, and our dear friend, the late Carolyn Lynch, presided at. And then on the other side, Peter Lynch and his daughters with Cardinal O'Malley when the garden was dedicated in Carolyn's name just a couple of years ago. And it shows some of the wonderful, we're very proud of our pumpkin patch we've had every year and other seasonal plantings. And the front garden at the Society won 2 garden awards, one from the Back Bay Garden Club and one from the Institute for Classical Art and Architecture.
My colleague Ellen Maxwell, she designed the book, and I know that she especially enjoyed this spread just because of the colors, the bold colors, they pop. She really had fun designing that one.
Well, and I'm so glad you mentioned Ellen, because she does great work designing our books. And by the way, one of her books just won an award. Do you want to say something about that?
Oh, go ahead.
I'm thinking of Family Treasures, which won the...
I wish I could hold it up.
Well, we've had Kurt DiCamillo and I have given a presentation on it previously, and on this same series, and it was awarded the, I guess, the category for art and photography from the New England Society of the City of New York. So congratulations to Ellen and Jerry Ward, who wrote it, and Kurt and I wrote a forward and a preface, and Gavin Ashworth was the photographer. Moving further back, now we're getting back towards the beginning of my career. This was the sesquicentennial in 1995. And here was David McCullough making his first appearance with us back then. And Ralph Crandall, who was our longtime director, and a picture of, this is what I love, this picture of, do you see Celeste Holm here? We had a dramatic reading. It was at the Museum of Our National Heritage, which is now, I believe, called the National Heritage Museum in Lexington, Massachusetts. And Cécile, the fun thing there was Nick Benton, who is one of our trustees, put this together. And we certainly had some interesting experiences finding an actor. And he at first engaged the very famous actress named Julie Harris. And so we printed up posters and we were promoting Julie Harris in our show not so long ago. And when all of a sudden Julie Harris had to drop out due to another role, and so those posters came down. And then Nick said, well, guess what? I've engaged Claire Bloom, another famous actress, a British actress who's worked a lot in America. And so we made posters and Claire Bloom, and not so long ago. And then guess what? Claire Bloom had to drop out because she got another role. And then Nick said, well, we've saved the best for last. We've got the Academy Award winning actress Celeste Holm will be in it. And so Celeste Holm did a magnificent job. And so that was a fun moment in our history. And that was a long time ago now. And this shows some of the staff at that time.
I was just going to say, what a creative event. I think we should do another.
Yeah, well, we know a lot of actors now, and we've mentioned Angela Lansbury, and we should do another. This is a great picture. I wanted to just show this for a second. This is Ralph Crandall in the center, the color photograph with the late George Redmonds. George was a dear friend, a noted surname expert from the UK, and that we've had many programs with him, on both sides of the Atlantic, both in Boston and in the UK. So that was a fun memory. And And then, and then we get into, again, as I say, we didn't have a lot of images, or not a lot of images had been published in the 20th century for the Society. And if I can jump further back, and I think you'll agree, in putting this together, it was really interesting to see the interiors of some of our old buildings. This is Ashburton Place.
Beautiful, beautiful shot.
Yeah, wasn't that, it really was interesting to see that. And then lots of clippings. One of the things Cécile and I were excited to find were, remember all those books with clippings in them?
Yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah, so we have, the Society has wonderful archives of its events, really since 1845 onwards. And what I liked, Cécile, about those books, and we could only put a small portion of them in this book, but our scrapbooks, if you will, of events over the years, it shows how varied our programming has always been.
Always, yes.
Always, yes. And I have to point this out to people that we're all about genealogy, of course, but we've always taken a multidisciplinary, or for most of our history, we have, and we've certainly embraced it again in recent years, but always wanted to know adjacent fields as well. And when you look at the scrapbook, you see, I mean, I was amazed, architecture programs with Ralph Adams Cram, the famous architect, and so many interesting speakers came to the Society over the years and visited us. And pictures of buildings now, no longer exist, but were important in their day to our organization.
We were celebrating Mayflower's 400th anniversary. We've always celebrated all of these anniversaries with a lot of costumes and flair. On page 50, you see all the ladies dressed up.
I love that.
Yes, right, with a descendant of Louisa May Alcott. That's just fantastic. We've always done this, and we're still doing it.
Yeah, and our staff does love costumes. I think we have some pictures. Oh, I have to show our viewers. Look at this. There is Cécile on the back cover with David Lambert, our chief genealogist. So we really haven't gone that far afield of our roots. And I mean, just look at some of these reading rooms that we had in earlier buildings. I mean, just beautiful. One of our buildings at Ashburton Place, where we were for a long time, was taken by eminent domain to build the McCormick building at Government Center, sadly. Although we love our present building, but our old buildings were even larger.
I would also like to point out one more thing about the newspaper clippings. A lot of the times, the female members are named by their husbands, right?
Yes.
And so in writing the captions, I actually had to consult archives and say, what is this woman's name?
That's a great point, and thank you for doing that. Which is, was a social convention.
Yes, right.
And kind of odd, because we were, for Boston institutions, one of the first to admit women members. Now, by the way, our membership is some 60 to 70% female to male. So we have more female members than male members. So so things have changed in 100 years.
It's true.
And we have some beautiful, this is one of our paintings from the collection, the Shattuck family, which is a great treasure. And on the other side, daguerreotypes of some of our early members. And our founding president, Charles Ewer. And some of the original documents here is our charter from the Commonwealth in 1845. So it was a really fun book. What image did you like the most?
Let me just point out what our founding paper, our document right there, what it says our purpose is. It says, we will, our humble purpose as collecting, preserving, and occasionally publishing genealogical and historical matter relating to early New England families. Occasionally.
Yeah, that's moved from occasional to constant.
And only considering New England, then we've expanded to the world. Yeah. I just love that unique little statement right there. it started us, it was a seed, and we have grown so much from that.
Well, that's a really good point. And and to you look at the founding of the organization as the founding genealogical organization in this country and indeed the world, and today the largest organization, nonprofit society of its kind. And we have these treasures. And I think that was one of the fun parts of this book, was to really show some things that really don't get seen by members very often.
Yeah, the under the covers.
Yeah.
One point, I don't know, my favorite part of this project was noticing, as we've been discussing, how things change so much, but at the same time, how they stay exactly the same. A stark portrait of how things have changed, technology wise, at least. Where is it, Brenton? You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, are you getting to the?
There we go. Here it is.
I
That
know. Yeah.
to go physically be present to look at microfiche and documents, right? This computer doesn't even have a hard drive.
Yeah. Yes.
None of them.
Well, I think you're pointing at a fiche. Is that a fiche, and below it is a computer?
Oh, there we go. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, very good. Yeah.
But they look like dinosaurs now. I mean, at the time, those were cutting edge. I mean, it was like rocket science. And now we look at that and say, what in the world is that?
It's amazing. It's
too bad we don't have a couple of those machines kicking around just to look at.
Yeah. And so people you can be at home and do so much research, right? It's all at our fingertips online. There are some things that you need to come in for, but wow, how's that exploded and changed? And yet we're still doing these cultural programs. We're still plugging in and gathering people together. And so it's just cool how we've changed, but we've stayed the same.
Yeah. And that's a really good point. And one of the things that was nice to see, and a little poignant, I have to say, going through all the old photographs and scrapbooks, for all the wonderful friends we've made over the years, many of whom are no longer with us, of course, and then earlier generations, people we never knew. But they've all had a role here, and our members have been so wonderfully supportive over 175 years. And to see photographs from tours of 25 years ago and longer than that, and see all the smiling face and know the impact we have on people's lives, that the research and the information that we convey makes a real difference in telling the great American story. And our members are so central to that, and seeing them and seeing faces I hadn't seen in a long time, now having been on the staff for approaching 30 years, to see people I hadn't seen in years and years. And so I hope people enjoy it. And I want to thank you. I just have to say, Cécile did a great job. We had boxes of photographs and the scrapbooks, and we were practically taking things off of walls to photograph. And we wanted to put together something fun that would be a keepsake, and show some things that members don't get to see every day, and shed some new perspectives on who we are and what we do. And I think it accomplishes that.
No, it's a lovely book, and I think, we did plan it. Well, you had this great idea, and we collaborated, and it was supposed to be for our grand 2020 celebration. And even though most things were canceled, especially our April event, it was really touching to have this in our hands while we were all at home. It was wonderful to remember the great moments we had together and celebrated, and know that one day we'd be back. And we're starting to reopen now.
Well, you raise that's a really good point, Cécile. And I have to laugh because one of the first pages has what would have been the original John Major event in it. And we did make ourselves, and there it is, you'll see an invitation. We did make ourselves honest people by having an event with Sir John Major. So it all happened in the end. But I hope you enjoy this book. And I think maybe this would be a good time for us to show a little film produced by our colleague Ginevra Morse, who's a great film editor and producer, and she put a bunch of these photographs that we've given you little glimpses of or said a word or two about. She set them to music. Let's take a look right now at that film. Well, I hope you enjoyed seeing what we put together by way of a film, and if the society and its history is of interest to you, I hope you will consider buying the family album. It is for sale for $20. Members receive a discount. You can order it at AmericanAncestors.org. We'll show you the information on how to order it in just a moment. And thank you again, Cécile, for joining us today, and for all your work in putting this book together. We have a lot of other books to talk about, so this is your first of, I suspect, many appearances on the Antiquarto.
I look forward to it.
Thank you so much, everyone.